He rammed my bumper twice before I even knew what was happening. And when he finally pulled up next to me, ready to scream in my face, he came face to face with something he never expected to see in a quiet, sleepy neighborhood: a butcher knife, and a smile that made his blood run cold. If you've ever been tailgated, bullied, or intimidated on the road by someone who thought they owned it, you are going to love this one. Stick around, because by the end of the story, you'll be cheering out loud. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. Amara had spent almost 10 years living overseas before she came back home. Home was a quiet, wooded state on the mid-Atlantic coast, 2-lane roads winding through parks, deer crossing signs every quarter mile, the kind of town where nothing much happened. She'd come back under sad circumstances. Her mother had passed away and left her the family house, and so Amara returned with her husband, Farhan, a man she'd met and married abroad, ready to start a new chapter together in the town she'd grown up in. For Amara, coming home felt like putting on an old, familiar coat. For Farhan, it felt like landing on the moon. He struggled, quietly but visibly, with the adjustment. Small things wore on him. Grocery store aisles that didn't carry what he needed. A total absence of halal butchers anywhere near their new home. Farhan had grown up eating meat prepared a very specific way, according to his faith, and here he was in a town where the nearest halal market was over an hour's drive. He tried to make do. He tried to be a good sport about it, but some nights, Amara would catch him standing in front of the fridge, just staring, homesick in a way that had nothing to do with geography and everything to do with feeling like a stranger in his own kitchen. Then Farhan noticed something the locals had stopped noticing years ago, deer. Everywhere. Dead on the roadside, freshly struck, sometimes still warm. To Amara, it was just background scenery, the unfortunate cost of living somewhere so wooded. To Farhan, it looked like an opportunity, and also, frankly, like the dumbest idea he'd ever had. He got it into his head that if he came across a deer that had just been hit, still alive, or freshly killed, he could put it out of its misery properly and prepare the meat himself, the way his faith required. Amara told him this was insane. He agreed it was insane. And then he put a large kitchen butcher knife in the door pocket of his car anyway, just in case. Amara rolled her eyes so hard she nearly saw her own brainstem. But it was harmless, she figured. A knife sitting in a car door pocket, waiting for a deer that would probably never show up at the right moment. What could possibly go wrong? One ordinary morning, Amara needed to get to work, and her own car was low on gas, so she grabbed Farhan's keys instead. She didn't think twice about the knife. She didn't even remember it was there. Her route to work cut through a stretch of parkland, a narrow, winding 2-lane road, thick trees pressing in on both sides, the kind of road where you're forced to slow down whether you want or not. Ahead of her, some driver was crawling along well under the speed limit, clearly in no hurry. Amara, who was in a hurry, waited for a safe stretch and passed him. She didn't clock the car. She didn't clock the driver. In her mind, it was a completely unremarkable maneuver, the kind every commuter makes a dozen times a week. She had no idea she'd just lit a fuse. She reached the edge of the park where the road opened back up and stopped at a red light, engine idling, mind already drifting toward her workday. That's when her car lurched. Her first thought was mechanical. Did the transmission slip? Clutch acting up again? She frowned, glanced at her dashboard, tried to make sense of it. And then it happened again, a hard, deliberate jolt from behind. Her stomach dropped as her eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. It was him, the slowpoke from the park. Except he wasn't slow anymore. He was right on her bumper, and he was ramming her. On purpose, at a red light, in broad daylight, because she'd had the audacity to pass him a mile back. Her pulse kicked into her throat. Who does this? What kind of person turns a routine pass on a 2-lane road into a personal vendetta? She gripped the wheel, heart hammering, torn between fear and a rising, bewildered fury. This wasn't road rage anymore. This was a man deciding, in real time, that he was owed a confrontation. The light turned green. Amara didn't wait around to find out what a third bump would feel like. She hit the gas and got moving, eyes darting between the road ahead and the furious stranger in her mirror. The road widened into 4 lanes. And that's when he made his move, pulling up alongside her, matching her speed, his window already rolling down. She could see him even before she turned her head, red-faced, mouth already moving, one arm gesturing wildly like he was rehearsing his outrage before he'd even gotten the words out. For half a second, Amara's instinct was to roll her own window down and give him a piece of her mind. 10 years abroad hadn't dulled her temper. But as her hand reached for the window switch, her eyes caught something else entirely. Something sitting quietly in the door pocket, exactly where her husband had left it 3 weeks earlier for a deer that never showed up. A full-size kitchen butcher knife. Amara froze for exactly 1 heartbeat. Then something shifted in her chest. Not fear anymore, but a wicked, electric clarity. You want a confrontation? Let's have one. She didn't roll the window down. She didn't need to. Amara picked up the knife, angled it into view against the glass, and turned her head slowly toward him, toward Mr. No One Passes Me, still red-faced and shouting silently on the other side of her window. And then she smiled. Not a normal smile. She dug deep and pulled out every unsettling, dead-eyed, movie villain expression she could summon, somewhere between a hostage negotiation psychopath and the girl from The Exorcist mid-possession. Wide eyes. Slow, deliberate smile. And then, still smiling, still holding his gaze, she began jabbing the knife downward through the air in short, sharp, stabbing motions, all from behind a locked door and rolled-up glass, completely safe, completely in control, and completely, gloriously unhinged looking to a man who had no idea any of it was theater. His face did not go through anger. It went through terror, in real time like a flipbook. His mouth, still open mid-shout, snapped shut. His color drained. His hand went straight to the window switch, and glass shot upward faster than it had come down. The light ahead turned green, and he floored it, genuinely floored it, tires practically chirping, putting as much distance between himself and the unhinged knife lady as his engine could manage. Amara watched him shrink in her rearview mirror, weaving through traffic like a man being chased by something far scarier than her actual, physical threat level. At the very next light, she calmly turned off onto a side street, disappearing from his view entirely, in case he had any lingering ideas about circling back. He never did. Amara sat there for a moment, adrenaline still buzzing under her skin, and then the laughter hit her, the kind that comes rolling up from your stomach before you can stop it. She laughed the rest of the way to work. She laughed telling Farhan about it that night, watching his face shift from alarm. "You did what with my dear knife?" to helpless laughter of his own. His ridiculous, impractical, culturally confused roadkill knife had, in the end, served a purpose neither of them ever could have predicted. Sometimes the best revenge doesn't involve a single word. Sometimes it's just a locked door, a prop you never planned on using, and the willingness to fully commit to being the scariest person on the road for about 4 seconds. The man who thought he could bully a stranger for the crime of passing him on a 2-lane road learned, very quickly, that some people will not roll down that window, they'll just show you the knife instead. If this story made you laugh out loud, smash that like button, and tell us in the comments, what's the most unhinged way you've ever scared off someone who had it coming? And subscribe, because we've got plenty more stories like this one.